my story really began in a place like this. I was working in a barber shop from the age of 14, 15. Essentially, it was just sweeping up hair and listening to these 3 barbers talk rubbish all day. Yeah.
Were you really good at your job? Like how, I mean, could you have made a go of it as a career?
I would say that they would say I had potential. But I think dreams and aspirations often get in the way of what some would say potential is. And so I followed my dreams to Malaysia to work in television.
We've been talking just the last couple of years, and it feels like a long time, but it's like 18 months basically we're talking about. 18 months ago was before Crazy Rich Asians came out. And to look at what you've accomplished in that time is insane. You know, Crazy Rich Asians, obviously a phenomenon, working with the likes of Paul Feig and Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick, Matthew McConaughey and Guy Ritchie and The Gentleman.
Crazy.
Not to mention Emilia Clarke and Paul again in Last Christmas. Does it feel like it's been 10 years, 1 year, 1 day? What's the last 2 years been like for you?
Weirdly, it feels like a lifetime. I've become attuned to it and used to the absurdities that I've been sort of given. Like, for instance, I would never have imagined being on the streets of Brooklyn with Hugh Grant, Charlie Hunnam, Matthew McConaughey, eating pizza. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Who sees that in their future?
Only a madman, right?
Yes, a madman or a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And so I think part of what has led me to be able to kind of take it somewhat in my stride is the ability to kind of adapt to it and understand that you can either look at it as a one-hit gift, and Crazy Rich Asians was it. That's what you're going to pop off at, or are you going to run with what you love to do?
And clearly, you've been very strategic and smart, and yet also honoring your instincts in these early choices. You're doing the leading man stuff, and you're owning that, and then you pop up in this like kind of crazy Guy Ritchie, weird, dark, nasty man. That's like a character role. For anyone that loves Guy Ritchie stuff, this is kind of like old school Guy Ritchie. It's Lock, Stock, it's Snatch, it's in that vein.
Hugely.
A great ensemble. I mean, you get to go toe-to-toe with some amazing actors, most notably Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
So is it sort of like the confidence that you've accumulated in these first few films gives you that boost when you're sitting toe-to-toe with Matthew, that you know you can hold your own? Because this guy has an Oscar and
shitting my pants, Josh. What are you talking about?
I don't know. You tell me.
No, I was terrified. You'd be a fool not to be.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking, holy shit, that's Matthew McConaughey. And then, you know, you get back to it, and it's you know, it's professional, and it was one of the greatest little moments that I've had so far.
As long as you can snap back into the acting, you're fine.
Yeah,
if you're lost in,
you give yourself just that little micro couple seconds, because at the end of the day, if you're not a fan of what we're creating, and if you're not a fan of cinema, why are you doing it?
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to be able to geek out. You got to get excited about the love and your passion. So I'm just passionate about it. I love it.
So take me back for a second. I know you've told the story many times, but getting Crazy Rich Asians, which was your film debut, like, had you been auditioning for things prior to that?
So I was doing a lot of investigatory kind of travel shows and working for news channels and the BBC. And there were always like dramatic productions that were happening in Malaysia and Singapore. And I had like a couple little like cameos as sort of Henry the presenter in a
You'd established yourself enough as a celebrity in your own right.
It was like you know, a little cameo, a little nod. It was like, oh yeah, that's Henry or whatever. But never as a serious sort of as an actor. And so when the call came from John, my head was still in that space of like, no, I'm a presenter. I'm like, there are so many more deserving individuals out there, especially young men of my heritage of Asian going up for such an iconic role. And I have a lot of respect for people who dedicate themselves to their craft. And so I didn't think I deserved it. And I was like, no, I want to take out a year to really hone my craft and deserve a role like that. But then, of course, that's not how it went down.
Works, no. When the opportunity comes.
Yeah, John got on Skype, gave me pretty much a virtual slap in the face and was like, what are you doing? We're coming to you with this amazing opportunity. He literally like shook me, and I just realized, I was like, holy crap, like I've got to change my mindset, and I have to switch my thinking into thinking that I'm not worthy of it. The first couple days on set were terrifying. A week before you go into principal shooting, you have costume tests.
Right.
And so my first day, and that was my first ever day in front of a sort of a Hollywood camera as such, I was terrified and I didn't know what to do with my hands, and I kept thinking, any minute now they're gonna pull me aside and they'll be like, Henry, this isn't working out, we're gonna have to replace you. And I was waiting for John to do that, and I kept like, nervously asking, I was like, hey, how is it? How is it? Just like,
oh, am I doing all right?
Looks pretty good, huh?
You're definitely not going to fire me, are you?
Oh, yeah, like everything looks awesome, right? Right? And, it wasn't until the first or second day where I started owning it.
Right.
And I started realizing if I don't take control of my character and my performance, it'll be weaker than if I did.
So, in the wake of Crazy Rich Asians, like there were so many great conversations that came out of it, so many records broken. I mean, and one of the conversations that came about was, is Henry Golding Asian enough to play this character?
Yeah.
Was that something that caught you off guard?
It's something I've had to kind of struggle with for most of my life. And I think identity is what we all search and yearn for. And I don't think we ever stop looking at ourselves and trying to place ourselves.
Did you have a strong sense of your own cultural identity growing up? Your mom Malaysian, your dad British?
Hugely. I knew the importance of both elements and both sides to it. I knew that without my Asian heritage, I wouldn't have the ethos and the structure of kind of my decision making and respect values and cultural values. And so when it came to people questions like, oh, he's not Asian enough. I'm like, but I grew up in the jungles of Borneo.
What more do you want?
Foraging for food. How Asian do you need?
Yeah.
I come from one of the world's oldest tribes.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can explain until you're blue in the face. And so I took the stance of like, I didn't want to over-explain.
Well, and also when we start to get into kind of like, what's your test? Like everyone has a different litmus test. Like who are we trying to please here?
Is it, are you Asian enough if you've only ever lived in America but come from an Asian family who've never been to experienced Asian culture? Or are you more Asian if you're Asian and moved to America? Or it's an endless conversation.
So I want to talk about some influences growing up, because my sense is that you were into a lot of the kind of stuff that many of us were. I was comic books and like I know like Matrix.
The Uncanny X-Men that I love to watch on a Saturday morning.
So cartoons, comics, everything. I hear Matrix blew your mind when you were, what, 12 years old you would have been when you saw that, right?
13, because I had to wait until it was out on VHS. Which I received at midnight at Christmas, because my brother, we were allowed to open one Christmas present, and that was the present he thrust into my arms. It was like, you're gonna want to open this.
So did you end up just sort of like imitating Keanu and doing all the moves, everything?
To be honest, it wasn't that blew me away. It was the idea of a reality beyond our own. We're living in a simulation.
Yeah, for a 13-year-old, that's like, yeah, exactly.
Just like my mind was like, what the hell happened?
So what were
I like it.
What were like the top 3 comics, cartoons, and stuff that you were obsessed with?
So I used to follow X-Men. I have a couple of, interestingly, G.I. Joe, Transformers. The intersection just blew me away. Couldn't even imagine both these realities existing in one comic. So I used to follow that. The usual anime.
You were
Akira.
Cowboy Bebop. You were into,
Cowboy Bebop was humongous.
So the good news, I think,
general fan.
So there's a lot of cool things about that. Obviously, so you're in the middle of shooting Snake Eyes, which is mind blowing. That like this is a character that we've seen, but we've never seen like a full-fledged movie of his own.
Yes.
As a fan, what's the tone? What's the thing that's going to honor that character in this one?
This brings an interesting sort of subject of how do you represent such an iconic character like that?
Yeah.
And how do you do justice to the infinitely genius creations of other people like Hammer and all of the comic book writers? Do you follow the Snake Eyes that was created in Southeast Asia with, Stalker and Storm Shadow in Vietnam, who has the helicopter accident, or do you follow the Vow of Silence Snake Eyes from the Arashikage, or do you have another reality in which we're sort of trying to create? And all of them are very different, but at the same time, they're paying homage to this iconic character.
So you're trying to keep elements of all and still honor the essence of the character.
But also, we want to do justice to the old-time fans, but we want to create a new following as well. We want to have the ability to inspire a 10-year-old in 2020 to love this franchise and reinvigorate it.
I thought you were going to say to inspire a kid to be a ruthless ninja.
I didn't want to say that because that would be advocating violence.
But I got you.
There will definitely be a few kids throwing shurikens here, there, and everywhere.
So how do you describe the action? I mean, this is a new aspect for you.
The action is insane. You might have watched this series, but there's a series of movies called Rurouni Kenshin. Samurai X is the anime. So the choreographer of Rurouni Kenshin is our choreographer on this. And he is one of the greatest martial arts choreographers. He was Donnie Yen's right-hand man for the longest time. He worked with Jackie Chan. He's worked with like Michelle Yeoh in Hong Kong for years, in Japanese for years. And so we have an authenticity to this, which no one will have ever seen in a G.I. Joe franchise ever. Oh my God. And the amount of physical stunts that we do outweigh that of any of the CGI. So generally speaking, it's all physical stunts.
Easy on you.
Yeah. I've had a few injuries. I'm not gonna lie, we're halfway through.
Yeah.
I blew out my hip. I tore my quad. My meniscus tore. And so we've been put through the ringer to bring a real tenacity to this character and do him justice. But you've got to understand, this is the period of Snake Eyes' life that he's still learning.
Right, it's an origin story,
It's an origin story, which I think builds a greater narrative, because everybody knows Snake Eyes as the weapon. And they've had glimpses of him training with Arashikage and with Tommy, and you see him at a stage of his life where he's still susceptible and he's still volatile in a sense.
I couldn't be more excited. Also, the good news is that, despite playing this awesome comic book character, you haven't given up your Marvel DC eligibility. I mean, you still are open to those universes.
Of course.
So the latest is, they were talking. Obviously, you were mentioned. People were like, "Oh, Shang-Chi." Now people are like Namor.
Yeah.
Have you seen the fan art and stuff around that? Is that something that's intriguing?
You could never tell that we're in New York, could you?
No.
With the old sirens.
Authenticity always. The sirens. Is Namor a character that's of any appeal?
In the UK, we call him Namor.
Or Namor,
you're right. No, he is one of my favorite characters in the Marvel Universe because he straddles his own world. He's not a villain. He's not a hero.
Right.
He's an anti-hero in much of a sense. His sort of goals lie within protecting the Atlanteans, his people.
Yeah.
And so whatever stands in that way, whatever is putting that at risk, that is his enemy.
Right.
And I think, from my understanding at the moment, Wakanda is the greatest threat to his existence.
Right. That's the word.
Which I love. And so he becomes the anti-hero.
So have you had any actual conversations?
No, of course not. No. No, but again, I'm a big fan. I'll tell you a story. I was on a flight to film The Gentleman, and I look over and there's a dude with a baseball cap, and I'm like, he looks kind of familiar. I look over and I was like, F me, that's Kevin Feige. Holy crap. I was just like, no, there's no, I can't. And I was like, there's no right time to sort of say hello. And so we went through the flight, and it was just as we left, I was like, look, I just wanted to say thank you.
Right.
I've followed, and so has everybody else, for so many years, this anthology of amazing characters, and I'm excited for what you guys have for the next chapter. And he was like, oh, we've got so much planned, and I'm excited for what they do. If I'm a part of it, even better, but you know what, as a longtime fan, I'm grateful they're still making them.
Well, going forward, it sounds like, from what I've heard, you started your own production company. Mm-hmm. It seems like it's important to you to balance, correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of you've been cast in a bunch of roles that are colorblind, especially like Paul Feig, et cetera, right? But it's also important to you to honor your heritage, honor your culture. Is that a balance that's going to be important for you going forward?
I think I have to have that in my sort of hemisphere of my decision making.
Right.
Because it's an undeniable fact.
Right.
And so I would be a fool not to try the best I can to help, I suppose, broaden that horizon.
Sure.
But is it steering me to make decisions that I might not make if I was just a normal actor?
Right.
I don't want to go after just Asian roles because I am Asian. Like, I want to break that barrier and normalize the fact that I'm Asian.
Right.
And have these characters be Asian but not over-explained.
Right.
But when it comes to what decisions I'm making for making movies, I want to make fun, outrageous characters that I can look back on and say, holy crap, that was a fun time, you know, shooting a Guy Ritchie film.
I was going to say Dry Eye fits the bill.
Dry Eye,
From the first
Dry
second
Eye's
you
up
see him on
there.
screen. I'm glad today we got a little bit more of the Last Christmas charm than the Dry Eye charm.
Yeah.
Charming in his own right, but not the kind of guy I want to hang out with in a hair salon.